Maraming salamat sa suporta at sana patuloy yung suporta niyo sa akin at
Only 5 minutes ago, a bombshell dropped that completely shook the foundations of professional tennis, and almost nobody is even aware of it. This was a secret supposed to remain guarded for eternity, concealed within a Mediterranean fortress on the sun-drenched island of Majorca, Spain, a place where champions are secretly engineered and legacies are built in the shadows. However, one candid conversation might have just exposed the entire operation. Right now, the fallout is sending tremors through the nerve centers of tennis all around the globe. Miko Alexandra Eala's older brother has shattered his long-standing silence with stunning revelations of clandestine practice sessions, top-secret game plans, and the hands-on personal guidance from some of the sport's most iconic figures. The disclosures are so monumental, so game-changing that top WTA coaches worldwide are said to be sleepless tonight, scrambling to review game tape and crack a code that might have been right under their noses all along. Should even a small part of Miko's claims turn out to be true, it would represent the key to unlocking the mystery behind Alexandra Eala's incredible, almost unbelievable climb to the pinnacle of the women's game. You're watching Champions Tennis again, your exclusive online source for the most explosive, unfiltered, and honest truths from the heart of the sport we're all passionate about. For those of you just joining us, your timing couldn't be better, as the story we're about to break down is on a whole other level from anything we've ever reported. So, get your popcorn, find a comfortable spot, crank up the sound, and brace yourselves. The old guard of tennis is shaking in its boots. And we're going to lay out every single reason why with all the stunning and spectacular details. To grasp the immense scale of what's unfolding, it's crucial to begin with the person who just dropped the bombshell and set this whole thing off. Miko Eala isn't just some supportive older sibling applauding from the sidelines, happy to benefit from his sister's fame. He's a decorated former Division I collegiate tennis player, having represented the blue and white of the Penn State Nittany Lions with considerable honor. More critically for the story unfolding now, Miko was there on the ground with Alex deep inside the Rafa Nadal Academy in Manacor, Mallorca throughout those crucial early years of her development. He remembers the grueling practice sessions that began in the pre-dawn darkness long before the Spanish sunrise. He's familiar with the scent of red clay powder lingering in the Mediterranean breeze following yet another brutal rally from the back of the court. He recalls the quiet, serious talks that took place in the Academy's hallways, a world away from the media frenzy and the carefully curated Instagram feed that showed only the picture-perfect side of it all. For a long time, the whole Eala team has maintained a notoriously strict code of silence. They present a friendly face to the media, offer well-rehearsed and courteous interviews after matches, and always express gratitude to their supporters and partners. But they absolutely never reveal what's really going on behind the scenes. Yet under that flawless, expertly managed public image, a completely different project was underway. A true force of nature on the court was being forged meticulously and with an almost fanatical focus. And until this very moment, nobody seemed to notice. That all changed when Miko recently alluded to the existence of highly secretive invitation-only practice matches which were created with the sole purpose of taking apart the games of the current top 10 players on the WTA Tour. His words made the entire tennis community pause. He wasn't just suggesting that Alex was spending time on basic drills like cross-court forehands or improving her serve. Instead, he described something far more elaborate, a custom-designed, intensely private training program. This regimen was crafted with meticulous detail to pinpoint, analyze, and relentlessly capitalize on the known vulnerabilities of the world's elite players. This wasn't some casual slip of the tongue from a sibling. It was a declaration from a brother who, after seeing his sister toil relentlessly in obscurity for years, could no longer hold back his immense admiration. And now the global tennis world is left scrambling to understand the full implications. Let's go back and piece this puzzle together because, frankly, the clues have been there all along, and we should probably all be a bit sheepish for overlooking them. The general narrative is familiar to most people. At just 13 years of age, Alex Eala made a courageous, life-changing choice to relocate to Manacor, Spain, trading the security of her home in Manila for the pursuit of a much larger, more remarkable dream. On the surface, to anyone not paying close attention, it might have seemed like a classic story. A gifted youngster from a well-off background, enrolling in a high-priced, prestigious athletic academy in a scenic location. However, the Rafa Nadal Academy is nothing like a traditional school. It can be described without hyperbole as a laboratory for creating elite human athletes. It's an institution where the planet's most talented young players are immersed in a demanding top-tier environment engineered to fast-track their growth, achieving in years what would normally take decades. And the people in charge of this entire enterprise are more than just trainers. They are the masterminds behind a level of championship building that is almost unprecedented in the history of tennis. Rafa Nadal, a champion with 22 Grand Slam victories and arguably the most dominant clay court player the sport has ever known, founded this institution bearing his name and built upon a distinct and clear set of principles. Yet the individual who genuinely forged that philosophy, the one who sculpted the untamed, passionate ability of a young Rafa into the unyielding, psychologically unbreakable force that dominated the tour for 2 decades, is his uncle Toni Nadal. Toni Nadal is recognized as one of the most revered, most intimidating, and most brilliant strategic thinkers in the annals of the sport. He isn't the kind of encouraging coach who offers feel-good platitudes. He operates as a strategist, a mental coach, and an unflinching realist who requires his athletes to achieve total command not only of their bodies but of their minds and their game plan as well. The connection between this man and Alex Eala's rise isn't some minor detail. It is the entire narrative. And now, with Miko's recent shocking statements echoing in our minds, that viral and completely unforgettable moment from the 2025 Miami Open suddenly makes a horrifying amount of sense. Take your mind back to that humid electric evening in Florida. A 19-year-old Alexandra Eala, a young woman who had honed her skills for years in relative anonymity on the sun-drenched clay of Mallorca, strode onto the court at Hard Rock Stadium and proceeded to not only beat, but completely systematically and almost cruelly dismantle the great Iga, then ranked number 2 in the world, in a stunning 6-2-7-5 performance. It was the kind of match that makes you put down your food and just gape at the television in utter disbelief. But there's a detail that the average fan might have overlooked. When the broadcast zoomed in on the player's box to capture the triumphant moment, seated right there, calm, observant, and entirely unsurprised by the events on the court, was Toni Nadal himself. The legendary mind behind 14 French Open championships doesn't just fly across the Atlantic to Miami, Florida for a leisurely vacation. He was there on business. He was there to witness his investment, his special project, his hidden weapon, carry out a perfectly orchestrated tactical maneuver against one of the world's most elite athletes. And the strategy worked flawlessly. Every single clue Miko revealed about secret training, about behind-the-scenes strategy meetings, about a game plan that no one outside that Majorcan compound has ever laid eyes on, aligns perfectly with how Alex performed against Swiatek that night. The world's number 2 player looked completely and utterly lost. She appeared to be a fighter swinging at a phantom. She was incapable of deciphering the spin, incapable of judging the depth, and incapable of handling the ceaseless, suffocating, and masterfully constructed pressure being applied from across the net. Swiatek had reviewed all the existing game film. She had prepared thoroughly, but her preparation was for an outdated model of Alex because the competitor who appeared in Miami was clearly running on upgraded software that was exclusive to her. The story, however, doesn't end there. In reality, it becomes significantly more complicated, growing richer and more fascinating the further you investigate. Let's jump from that unforgettable Miami night to February of 2026, just a few days ago. The location is the Dubai Tennis Championships, one of the most coveted and fiercely contested WTA 1000 tournaments on the whole tour. The planet's elite players gather in the United Arab Emirates annually for a competition that has equally been the site of crushing heartbreaks and breakout careers. Alex Eala entered that desert climate as a long shot, a dangerous one certainly, but a long shot all the same. She departed having done it all over again, but this time in a way that was more commanding than anyone could have possibly foreseen. During her most impressive match of the event, she competed against world number 8 Jasmine Paolini, the veteran Italian Grand Slam finalist who has been a top-tier player on the tour for years. Paolini was utterly stumped, completely. Eala's relentless left-handed assault from the baseline was simply too powerful, too unpredictable, and too surgically precise for the experienced player to counter. Eala seized the first set with a stunning, almost brazen 6-1 victory. When the suspense peaked in the second set, and Eala found herself defending 2 set points, she didn't even flinch. She betrayed not a single shred of uncertainty. She neutralized both threats with the icy precision of an athlete who has been meticulously conditioned for these high-stakes scenarios. And she secured the tiebreak with a sense of calm dominance that made even the most cynical tennis analysts stop and take notice. That win did far more than just validate what Miami hinted at. It propelled the entire narrative to a whole new plane. Alex Eala's ranking shot up to an incredible career best of world number 31, making her officially, unequivocally, and without question the highest-ranked Filipino tennis player in the sport's entire history. However, the achievement that truly sent a jolt through the tennis data world was this. At just 20 years and 168 days of age, Alexandra Eala moved past none other than Naomi Osaka, becoming the youngest Asian player in the sport's history to achieve wins over top 10 ranked opponents at several WTA 1000 competitions. Consider that statement once more. She is not merely eclipsing the milestones of typical players. She is reaching into the legacy of one of the most revered and globally recognized tennis icons of this generation, and declaring respectfully but confidently that she can achieve it at a younger age at a faster pace, and she is only just beginning. So, let's explore what's really powering this machine, because this is the part where Miko's intel becomes truly alarming for anyone currently residing in the top 10. Word from the inner circles of the Academy world hints that the training Alex has received extends well beyond the methods normally seen in mainstream tennis coaching. There are solid reports, the kind that get shared discreetly among agents, coaches, and elite performance teams, that the Nadal Academy is using advanced biomechanical analysis technology to deconstruct the specific playing styles of every top rival Alex is predicted to meet on tour. This isn't just about their general patterns, it's about their specific actions in particular situations. Their shot choices when they're trailing by a point at 4-5 in the second set. How they position themselves for a return when facing a wide serve. The choices they make when approaching the net after receiving a short ball on their backhand. The reported level of detail being used for Alex's match strategy is the kind of material you'd find in a sports science journal, not what you'd expect to hear coming from a 20-year-old's coaching team. Then you have the practice partner arrangements, which insiders have been describing in increasingly specific detail. It's been suggested that hitting partners at the Academy are chosen and coached with a specific purpose. Not just to hit balls, not just to practice rallies for consistency, but to perfectly simulate the precise physical and strategic profiles of individual WTA competitors. Think of the booming high-kicking forehands of Orion Sabalenka loaded with topspin, or the tricky weighted slice backhand that makes Coco Gauff such a uniquely awkward player to face. Consider the flat laser-guided and unpredictable power hitting of Elena Rybakina. The whole concept is that when Alex Eala steps onto the court for a real match against any of these women, she's not encountering their style for the very first time. She has already battled a simulated version of them countless times in a controlled setting, with specific tactical approaches drilled so deeply into her muscle memory that they're just waiting to be unleashed when the opportunity arises. This is precisely why her comeback victory against Jelena Ostapenko at the Miami Open provides such compelling evidence for this covert playbook theory. Alex was trailing 0-4 in the opening set against the Latvian former Grand Slam champion, a player whose erratic, hyper-aggressive, flat-hitting game has overwhelmed numerous top-ranked opponents over the years. She did something almost no teenager would do. Under that immense pressure, she refused to panic. She avoided making panicked, on-the-fly tactical changes just hoping something might work. Instead, with a spooky, almost unnatural calm, she simply adjusted her approach. To the untrained eye, it was almost invisible, but she moved her return position just a matter of inches. She made a tiny adjustment to the depth of her shots in the rallies. She began targeting her shots to a very specific channel on the court, one that Ostapenko's movement just couldn't effectively cover. And then, with the quiet, methodical precision of a surgeon, she dismantled the Latvian's entire game 1 point and 1 game at a time. By the end, Ostapenko was so utterly baffled that she was just launching balls several feet long, completely lost and frustrated. Alex won 7-6, 7-5. It seemed like a comeback driven by sheer will and adrenaline. In truth, it was a chess grandmaster finally revealing the checkmate she had been carefully setting up from the very first point of the match. And if Miko's comments are to be believed, the Nadal coaching team had identified Ostapenko's patterns months before and had already devised the perfect counterplay. It's also impossible to understand Alex Eala's rise to prominence without dedicating significant time to the remarkable family foundation she's built on, because her story goes far beyond just coaching and tactics. This is a story about legacy and perhaps destiny. To put it simply, the athletic genes in the Eala family are absolutely absurd. Her mother, Riza, wasn't just a corporate powerhouse who, through a stellar career at Globe Telecom, became one of the most influential women in Philippine business. Prior to all that, she was a celebrated national swimmer who earned a bronze medal for the Philippines in the 100-meter backstroke at the 1985 Southeast Asian Games, representing her country with immense pride and skill. The intense discipline, the ability to push through pain, a deep-seated refusal to settle for anything less than excellence, and an innate grasp of what peak performance demands of a person's body and mind. Those qualities weren't things Riza simply left behind at the pool. She instilled those very same values in her home and her parenting, and ultimately they became part of the competitive DNA of her exceptional children. Mia. The children's uncle Nali Ella contributes an entirely different but no less vital aspect to the family's sports legacy. Having held senior positions in Philippine sports governance, including with the Philippine Sports Commission and the Philippine Basketball Association, Nali has an intimate understanding of the inner workings of elite athletic institutions. He gets the funding, he gets the politics, he comprehends the intricate workings of international sports federations, and he knows precisely how to elevate a national hero onto the world stage for the greatest possible impact. In other words, the Eala family isn't some naive group just figuring out how the world of professional sports operates. They are a remarkably sophisticated, exceptionally well-connected, and strategically brilliant team that has been quietly and methodically operating at the highest echelons of the sport for a long time. When Miko pulled back the curtain even just a little, it didn't seem like some innocent mistake made in a candid moment. It felt more like a deliberate signal from a family that has decided it's time for everyone to take notice, because the real performance is about to begin. Just take a moment to consider the predicament this revelation creates for the entire WTA Tour, and you'll grasp just how unnerving that situation really is. Imagine you're on the coaching staff for one of the top 5 players in the world right now. You've dedicated the last 12 months to painstakingly creating a scouting report on Alexandra Eala, using every piece of publicly accessible match film. You've been trying to break down the mechanics of her serve, which appeared to suddenly gain a huge amount of spin and accuracy, forcing opponents into awkward hitting positions well behind the baseline. You've pored over her court movement, which demonstrates an almost psychic ability to predict shot angles before her rivals have even made contact. And you believed you were finally starting to understand her game. And then Miko Eala sits down for an interview and casually implies that his sister has a whole other playbook, an entire level of tactical complexity that she's been holding in reserve because she hasn't needed it yet. It's impossible to calculate the psychological blow that one statement delivers to a coaching staff preparing to play against her. This is where the fortress-like Rafa Nadal Academy becomes one of the most brilliant strategic assets that the Eala camp has at its disposal. Rafael Nadal created that facility with an extremely clear vision. It's a controlled space for elite development, shielded from the noise, the pressure, and the prying eyes of the world. The media is flat-out denied access. Video footage never leaks out. The strategic discussions that take place on those practice courts never leave them. Unless you're holding an all-access pass personally signed by Nadal himself, you are always operating with partial information. Besides, when you're doing your homework, having incomplete data is basically the same as having no data whatsoever, especially since your opponent has a thorough breakdown of every single move you're likely to attempt.